Welcome to Solarpunk Life and our continuation with Mark Davis out of Roanoke, Virginia. This episode is going to focus on creativity and the creative process.
Yeah, we asked Mark to go into some of the ways that you can stay creative over, he's had a 30 plus year career. How do you keep it lively? And I think we'll get into that.
We think it transitions really well into building our community. So enjoy.
So while we've got you here today, Mark, I want to take a minute to kind of introduce everybody to you and let them know why it is that we're talking to you.
When we introduce me to them, because if we introduce all of them to me, it's going to take a while.
Fair enough. So, who is Mark Davis? You're an artist?
I am.
First.
That's down in the core.
In the core. And you've got 30 plus years of pottery and art and degrees, and tell us about that.
Well, my mother started taking me to ceramics class when I was 4, the kind where people pour clay in molds and then paint them because it was cheaper than getting a babysitter and leaving me at home. So, from the age of 4, I did that, and then I showed up to college, and I was convinced I was going to be a doctor, and I had a nice little scholarship to take me down that road. But there was this curly brown-haired girl who played folk guitar on the edge of my dorm, the apron that went around the dorm, and I wanted to meet her something bad. Some friends came by and said, let's go to a party. And I said, I don't have time for such endeavors. I must study. And they said, well, we're going to stop and get a little curly brown-haired girl on the way. And I said, well, I can be ready in about 2 minutes. And I grabbed my things and took off, and we got down to the art building, and they said, we're going to go up and grab so-and-so. I can't remember the names now. And they said, would you like to go down to the pottery studio and get a little curly-haired girl? And I said, that's fine with me. And I went down there to tell her all the best things about Mark Davis. And she was a lesbian. She had absolutely no interest in what I had on offer, but she did I could show you how this machine operates on offer. And it took me a good 6 or 7 minutes to get absolutely addicted to making pottery. 25 years later, we still know each other. We fight in each other's kilns. We're good friends. But I went down looking for a date and came back with a possibly unhealthy obsession. Probably, for the best. And that opened up everything else. For a little while, for 5 or 6 years before that, I'd done photography, which got me, I was very much into the process. And then when I go to ceramics, it seems to me that I pursue whatever art form I can find that takes the most steps. I want to have the ability to make a mistake at least 75 times.
Sure.
And these things hound me. I like the rhythm. I like how it changes like the seasons. I like how I'm doing the same thing, but I'm never doing the same thing. Some days you're throwing, trimming, attaching handles, firing, glazing, boxing and shipping, which I don't like. But with this one activity, I get to do a lot of different things. It's like saying you're a farmer. You come by on any day, you don't know what you're going to find me doing because I'm a farmer, right? And I painted on the side because that was something to do. And lately I've just been painting like mad. I'd like to pretend that there's a direction I'm going, but if there is, I don't know it. I'm pretty decent at being a kite, right? You throw enough wind behind me, I'll go way high and make a lot of noise about something, but I don't know what it's about.
So how do you, 30 years of being an artist?
A little more than that.
A little more than that?
Yeah.
How do you describe the creative process? How do you come up with new ideas? Do you just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks?
I base everything I'm about to say on the fact that I've watched others struggle with coming up with a creative concept when I'm teaching, right? I don't know what I want to make. I don't personally relate to that. I've got 7 lifetimes worth of ideas. I'm very upset that it's likely I'm going to die between 70 and 100 years old with a truckload of sketchbooks waiting to, 300 or 400 years worth of stuff to do. But what I've noticed helps a lot of people when they want to pursue a creative endeavor but aren't sure where to start because it's an overwhelming world, is I start talking to them about taxonomy, right? When biologists look at a new life form, they say, well, is this animal or plant? And then, well, if it's an animal, does it have a backbone? Does it? And we get narrower and narrower. And I think creativity works the same way. People want to sit down and come up with the idea of a purple jackalope with pink spots that has a lion's tail. And that's not how it works. Start with, I want to do a painting from nature. I want to do it outdoors. I want it to involve an animal. I want the animal surroundings to be different than normal. And the more you narrow down, the more you find out what you really intended. But people expect these fully formed ideas to pop into their head, and that's not how art works. You start from a really broad area, and you narrow down, and the more you refine, the more you realize you've really screwed up, and you need to go back up to class or order and start lowering down again. And for a few of these tries, what you'll find is it becomes more natural to you. You can skip the first, King Philip came over from Great Spain, Kingdom Phylum. You start skipping kingdom and phylum and all of this because you already know about where you're going to start. But if you approach it broadly from a near taxonomical perspective, everything comes easier to you.
Sure.
And the closer you get down the line towards a species, your final idea, the faster your mind works. And you start off with, I don't know what to do. And if you go, instead of trying to come up with this specific, narrow, square post in a square hole idea, if you start very broadly and start to narrow down, you'll be amazed at how many narrow slots you end up with. And I've seen people, when this approach is explained to them, go from I don't know what to do to which I don't know which of these 18 things to do first,
right.
Which is a much better problem.
Oh yeah, it's a much better problem. And that is interesting because I actually see parallels to that in designing computer systems.
Same thing.
You'll get somebody that will come to you and they'll say, I need you to build me something software-wise. And you'll say, well, what do you want? Mm-hmm. And they'll say, well, I need to get some data from here and it needs to go over there. I'm like, okay. Yeah. What does that data look like?
Yeah.
What does that data look like? What do I need to do it in between? And who's going to be using it? Yeah. And by asking those questions, you narrow down the scope of what is possible to what is necessary. Mm-hmm. And that ends up, then it's just how.
Yeah.
And getting the skill up to do it.
That's the other problem you have with creative training or with arts training for a lot of people is they want to jump in with high concepts and they want to do completed works. Well, let's just practice some brushstrokes for a while. Yeah. Let's just do how you scumble, how you can lay in thick. If you figure out the process, all the barriers are gone, right? And I find that what's best is a lot of these people come to me, they're looking for training, and it's not the art they create or how they open up in the class. It's when you see them 2 years later and they say, well, I took that concept and applied it to getting my daughter to quit jumping on the bed at 9 o'clock at night or whatever other problem they have, and applying those creative problem-solving techniques to their everyday life actually makes a better life.
It's like one time I got a marble stuck in my belly button.
Okay, that's...
Sorry, I didn't have anything to add.
I'm going to turn the lens on you then for a second, Jason, because Jason, if you haven't figured it out yet, comes up with some of the most amazing non sequitur statements in the world.
Uh-huh.
And I'll get a message in the morning that'll just be like, I don't know, blackbirds in a pie, and I'll have to figure out, how is Jason feeling today?
There's a common belief amongst some psychologists that creativity is almost, or could be classified as, a form of mental illness. When I say to you, when I give you three things, computer program, your daughter, and I name some town, you file them away in your head. And most people are filing alphanumerically. If you don't file away concepts properly and they accidentally rub against each other, they can start fires, right? So by misfiling our ideas, this slight mental illness gets mistaken for creativity.
I have over the
I don't know whether or not I'm insulted or impressed with that. Maybe a little bit of both.
I have over the years learned how to let my brain stop thinking about things actively and let it process things passively. And this is how shower thoughts happen. This is how, why I keep a pad of paper by my bed or now my phone. And if I'm laying down and I can't get to sleep, it's because my brain is working on something. And I'll get back up and I'll go write it down. Because if I don't write it down, I won't be able to get to sleep.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a full thought. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just some notes. Here's what I was thinking about. And then if I look at it again in the morning and it makes sense, well, A, that's pretty cool. But B, then I tend to build on it.
I think that lays in a lot to, I think people lay up their own stumbling blocks when they want to create something. I think one of the reasons people have such great ideas in the shower is because you can't do anything about it, right? So your brain has set aside that pressure of, if I come up with something brilliant, you're going to have to get up and get a brush wet and start smearing colors, right? Or write code, whatever it is you do, right? And I think one of the reasons we have these great thoughts in the shower is because you're buck naked and wet. You can't do anything about it. The pressure to succeed is taken from you because you're naked and soapy, right? And if you get too excited, you're going to fall down, and we're all going to make fun of you while you wear a cast for 8 weeks, right? And I think a lot of that, I had a student by the other day. She's only been throwing 4 weeks. My boss, hi. She's been coming around, and she's getting up shapes, but they're asymmetrical, right? And they wobble all over the place. So she came in yesterday, and on the off chance, I'm not saying this to brag on me, I'm saying this to say how incredible she was. On the off chance it would work, I said, listen, what I want you to do today is we're not going to try and get a single pot right. We're just going to throw as fast as we can. And I wedged up clay balls, and I would just hand them to her as fast as she could ruin a pot. And instead of being supportive and talking about where her right hand went and her left hand went, I started telling drunken tales from college and girls I dated when I was 22, and she starts telling me old concert stories.
Breaking down the stress barriers.
And I can get out the pictures for you. The next thing I know, she was throwing pots. Not, oh, that will hold cornflakes, because you just punch a piece of clay. She was throwing pots. And she suddenly looked up and said, oh my God, I'm doing it, right? And I decided I'm just going to skip to that lesson first when people come in from now on, right?
There's the thing that happens when you're learning something new to your body. Even if you're sitting down and learning a math concept, the muscles in your body will tense up.
Oh yeah.
They will tense up, and you will find that you have sore muscles the next day, even when you're learning a completely cerebral process.
It's almost a cognitive dissonance. Your body does not want to accept new truths. Right? So people always say, get your mind to support your body when we're taught athletics. But what they don't teach you when we go to Creative Works is get your body to support your mind, right? I've got a friend who, I thought it was sort of sappy the first time I saw her post it. She kept posting, unclench your jaw. Take your tongue off the roof of your mouth.
Roll your shoulders back.
Roll your shoulders. And I'm like, why does she always, oh my God, do I do that all day? Right?
You carry that tension around,
I live like this, right? And it's a defensive posture. If we just accept what's going on around us, let's face facts. As my dad used to say to me, anytime I would complain, he'd say, you were born at the end of the 20th century in the most powerful industrialized nation ever, and you were born a white man there. Ain't nobody ever had it that easy. Shut the up and do something. There's a lot of people who are getting a harder road to hoe than you. How about you stand on your head, gargle some peanut butter, and accomplish something? And now, I can hear that in my head every time. I'm like, oh man, I got to do this for 3 more hours. And I'm like, in a nice warm house, in an industrialized country where there is no war, I have to spend 3 hours going dot, dot, dot. You're really working into self-pity when that's your problem. Oh, I've got to paint this chicken, right? Man, what a miserable existence. I have to paint chickens, right? It's amazing if you accept the reality of any situation like you would accept geometry or accept algebra. If you just accept that is the answer, everything goes so much smoother. I try and teach people about valence electrons. Just accept it. Don't fight it. It's true. We know it's true.
I've got a friend who does henna and wants to get into tattooing. And she was born in Turkey and came to America when she was 18 and is a citizen now. And for my daughter's birthday last year or the year before, I had her come over and show my daughter how to do the henna. And she sat down with a piece of paper and said, okay, your first thing is make a dot. Make another dot.
That's it.
Make another dot. Then try to do a line. And then make a swirl, right? And these are the art practices to learn how to do good henna. And she showed us these practice sheets that she had done just to keep her muscles and her practice. And she does absolutely amazing artwork that is then temporary because it fades with time.
All artwork is temporary.
It's true. It's true.
It's just how long a scale it's temporary on.
But so it's all practice, right? relax and accepting that you're going to make mistakes and getting out of your own way.
And never try to jump on top of the pyramid. I get so many people who come to me, and I've got somebody coming by to learn watercolors tomorrow. And first we'll do a wash, then we'll do wet on dry, then wet on wet, then dry on wet. Then we're going to drag a needle, then we're going to scumble, then we're going to grade. And you get halfway through this with most people, and they're like, well, I don't want to worry about this, I'm ready to work. Well, thank God you don't build bridges, right? You have to have the fundamentals down. And if you learn the rules, there's a quote that's erroneously attributed to Picasso all the time. Learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist, right? Okay. And it makes a lot of sense. One of the great things I loved about the most recent student I took on for pottery was I said, well, we'll eventually work out what we'll charge you to fire things. And she says, oh, I imagine I'll throw for months before I ever want to fire anything. And I was like, yes. And she was like, what's wrong? I'm like, that's the attitude I'm always looking for in a student, right? Not everything you make is precious. Yeah. And the way to make the best art is realize that everything you do is practice. If you, as an artist, if you follow all the rules, if your techniques are perfect, if you have the right backing, if you have a safe and secure place to work, if your family and your friends come in and around you, and you get lucky and some financial breaks, it's possible that in 100 years, 3 people will know one of your pieces. Oh. Right? If you do everything right? So just look at every piece as practice, and you'd be amazed at how occasionally you're hitting 3-pointers from way out, right? Relax, get over yourself. One of the most powerful lessons I ever had was I had a ceramics instructor who had us make 100 pots. Yeah. And we got together and we talked about the pots, and then we took 50 of them and destroyed them. And then we fired them. And after they were fired, we saw what had cracks and didn't, and we talked about them, and we got down to 20. And we glazed them and we refired them. And we kept doing this until we got down to 1 pot. That was our 1 pot. And everybody's walking around with their 1 pot. And then they took us up to the 3rd floor and told us to throw them off in the parking lot. Now, you've got people who are about to join a program. You're in the program for 2 years before you're allowed to actually join it, right? And this is one of your last steps. And there were people who held that 1 pot, cried, and left. Yeah. They threw away 2 years of training because they couldn't destroy this 1 pot. And again, I'm not trying to brag on myself, but man, I skyhooked mine from 15 feet back, and I'm like, can I get back in the studio? Right? Crunch all you want, I'll make more. All apologies to Lays, right? And people are sitting there, do I have to? And I was just like throwing it over their heads. Like, can I please get back to work? All this lesson is a distraction. Get over it. Make more.
So there it is, our thoughts and Mark's thoughts on the creative process. Thanks for watching as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We're down here.
We're down here. Yeah, we're down here. Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And as always,
do good.
Be good.
Hey, Cora, serious here for a minute, all right? Put your finger in there for me.
No!
Oh!
Okay, put it down. So.
We're here today with Cora.
So, Mr. Mark, why did you start doing the dot paintings?
You know, I can talk in a large scope about why I do art, but when we get down to a narrow focus, like something like dot paintings or why did you make mugs, my answer is frequently going to be, I don't know. I make things. I make paintings for the same reason birds go south in the winter. It's what comes out of me.